Well, there you have it. It looks like Newcastle's first signing of the summer window is just about there. Anthony Elanga spotted yesterday arriving at Newcastle Airport and then spotted yesterday night at Newcastle training ground. Whether he had his medical last night or whether that's actually going to be this morning, it wouldn't surprise me if we then spot him at St James's Park later on today, signing papers, getting photos done, ready for that big reveal. I'm hoping Newcastle will do the reveal tonight and it can be quick. Boom, boom, boom. The dominoes start to fall. Elanga comes in, Longstaff potentially leaving, and Newcastle look to bring in that striker, centre-back, goalkeeper, and we can just keep on smashing it this summer window. And that's the big thing, because fair enough, we are 99.9% there with our first signing of the summer. But as per the reports, Newcastle are not waiting around, and another striker to play alongside, behind, rotate with Alexander Isak appears to be top of the list, and we've got a few names to get into in this video. Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Nice waking up, sun's shining, and Newcastle are getting stuff done this summer window. As I've mentioned, it was a frustrating start, but I have to say, we have waited a little bit longer than I would have liked for it. Pre-season has just started, so maybe we're running a day or two behind schedule. But Elanga, it's not a bad one, is it? Playing in a position to challenge Jacob Murphy for a spot, as I've said, I think Elanga, Gordon and Isak sounds pretty damn good. But let's not forget that Murphy had a fantastic season. We're just strengthening. It's a position we've needed to strengthen for years. So we've gone out, we've done it. Look forward to the reveal. I tell you what, we haven't released the away kit yet. I mean, maybe Elanga doesn't want to get released in that kit, to be honest, because I wouldn't want my first photo to be wearing that green monstrosity. But that's an easy way to kill two birds with one stone, isn't it? Elanga reveal, away kit reveal. But yes, looking forward to that one being announced. And as I say, breaking news straight after, that it looks like Longstaff's going to head off to Leeds. Should that happen, I wish him all the very best. As I say, I've always kind of said, Longstaff happy to kind of sit on the bench and just be part of it. But if he wants to make that move and go and find some football, then very good for him. But as I say, reports last night are that it is a striker Newcastle are looking at, and with two pretty big names as well. The first one is Ollie Watkins. Interestingly enough, I have to say I would be very surprised if that is one that Newcastle was to get done or even go for. 29 years old now, still has, I think, 3 years left on his deal at Villa. Has been linked to going to Arsenal. Would Watkins want to join Newcastle on the build-up to, an international competition year, when he's wanting to get a place in the squad? Because he's going to join, and that's a conversation we will have to have with pretty much every striker. That's the thought as to why, partly why Delap went to Chelsea, because he reckoned he was offered first-team football there. Then they go and buy Pedro, then he goes and scores 2 goals last night. Just cover your eyes and pretend you didn't see that, Pedro, the player that we were trying to sign, has gone to Chelsea and scored 2 goals already. But Delap must be sitting there wondering, why did I decide to come here again? Oh, I know, it's probably for all of that money. But yes, and I think he would have got way more time at Newcastle than he's possibly going to get at Chelsea. But anyway, other than Watkins wanting to make sure he gets a lot of football in the hope to represent England next summer, you'd imagine that the fee is just going to be too high. He's been linked to Arsenal. He's been linked to a few different clubs. I think it's Aston Villa. Aston Villa are pushing this name out there. I think Aston Villa are realising that Watkins is probably, and with their PSR issues, is probably at a point now where with 3 years left on his deal, it's probably the last chance that they can make probably good money off him. If you wait a year, he's got 2 years left on his deal, the amount of value will drop. A year later, a year left on his deal, the value will go even lower. So if I'm honest, do I think Newcastle would be interested in him, yes. He's a good player. He would always be a good player. But if we went and launched 50 million at Ollie Watkins, well, it's exact same for us. We take on the burden. I don't imagine Watkins would be worth an awful lot for us in a year's time or a year after that. And having Isak already, I just don't know that it's quite the route we would want to go down. Generally speaking, you would imagine instead it would be a younger striker. However, the other name being mentioned is also not a young striker, but I think would have a much lower price tag. And it is WISSA from Brentford. Now, a name that maybe you guys might not be jumping up and down over, but he has scored, I think, close to 30-ish, 25, 30-ish goals over the last 2 years. I mean, that is not bad going at all. Bearing in mind that they are about to lose Mbeumo potentially to Manchester United if they pay the fee, if they pay the wages that he's asking for. So would Brentford look to let him go and WISSA go at the same time? I'm not sure. However, WISSA actually has just 1 year left on his deal. So fair enough, a player in good form, scoring goals for the club, but with a year left on his deal, is it the right time for Brentford to move him on? And because of that, could Newcastle actually get a decent deal for him? Fees discussed are around 15 to 20 million. Now that's not bad. Even if we've got him for 3 years to the age of 31, I mean, I guess the risk is, will he continue that form into his 30s? You just don't know. However, the risk of losing 15 million on what's currently a proven striker in the Premier League, not too worried about that. Aston Villa wanting 50 to 60 million for a Watkins who in 3 years' time at 31 could well have no sell-on value at all. At least with WISSA, if we lose 15 million, it's far less. As I say, just 1 year left on a deal. As I say, 28 years old. So two strikers there. Or both in form strikers, both scoring goals. I wasn't going to say in peak form, but certainly there and thereabouts, and would be good players for us. But I think it's the age, and I think it's the cost. I think WISSA of the two stands out more to me because, as I've mentioned, because he's only got a year left on his deal, Brentford can't over-expect on cost. And then if we get him for 15 million, we can offer Champions League football. We can offer him a good package, I'm sure. And then in 3 years, or in 2 years, if we let him go for 5 million or just keep him on a yearly rolling or whatever, we're not putting the outlay isn't there. If we're putting 15 million and he doesn't play that much, as I say, you cannot get anyone for 5, 10, 15 million anymore. I think that would be an incredible deal actually if we were able to get that over the line. However, these are all just kind of reports and names discussed by Newcastle. I wouldn't be surprised if we were still looking in the market for maybe, I still think a young foreign striker isn't a bad shout. And I will touch on it as well because a centre-back that we're also talking about at the moment is Mark Guehi. Yes, that's right. The name that haunts our dreams after the summer we had previously where we just kept put up in the bid and he would not join. People today, mostly on social media, so don't overdo this one, are talking about Mark Guehi and that Newcastle are not finished yet and potentially could be available from Palace for 45 million. As I've mentioned, we were going in, how much was it? 60, 65, 70 million. And Palace kept saying no. Well, reports were that he was going to go to Liverpool. There was big question marks on that. They've got Chiarte, they've got Van Dijk. Again, he wants to be part of the England setup in the summer. Is he going to go and risk losing his first team football? When Newcastle would probably offer a far easier way into a start in a Premier League, Champions League side. He does tend to play left side of centre-back, but could we have and play on the right instead of Shaw, or mixing it in with Shaw? Dan Burn and Guehi, England's centre-backs for next summer, maybe. And at 45 million, I mean, it sounds just a damn sight better than 60 or 65 did. So let me know your thoughts on Mark Guehi. I think a lot of Newcastle fans have actually been quite interested in this Scalvini deal from Atalanta. It is still a name that is being kind of talked about, although I would say that the noise of that one has generally dipped a bit since Atalanta said that he would that they don't want to let him go unless you pay the money for him. And at that point, if you're offering 35 for Scalvini, 45 for Guehi, 10 million extra to have that Premier League proven. He didn't have a great season for Palace last season, although he did help lift the FA Cup. They're having an issue as to whether they're even going to be allowed to play in Europe because they didn't sign the form in time or whatever they were meant to do, which is just absolutely baffling. And after all of the pain it was caused by Palace, the owner, the saga last time, I do not want to get into that, but I think I would be up for it. I think if Newcastle said, look, 45 million, that's our offer, they write it down and say, we want to know by the end of next week. We head off to South Korea on whatever day. We want him to join on that trip. So if you say yes, great. But if not, it's done and we're not going to come back for him. Because that's the biggest worry, really, is that we continue to push for it and it never actually goes through. What we need to actually happen is if we're going to pay the fee and then we actually get it done. So let me know your thoughts on Guehi. Let me know your thoughts on the two strikers listed in the reports today. Watkins, WISSA, are either of them of interest to you? Are they too old? Are the fees too high? Should we be looking at, a young upcoming striker to play behind Alexander Isak, or is having a ready and available Premier League proven player worth paying for? Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already and you've enjoyed me sitting in the sun and talking a little bit about football. Not too bad, is it? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.